Good evening, everyone. This is Ryan Hoyme, aka Massage Nerd, and today I have Marjorie Brook. From the start, her practice as a massage therapist, she recognized the importance of treating scar tissue. As an Advanced AIS practitioner and certified personal trainer, she trained under and assisted Aaron Mattis, pioneer of AIS, across the United States and Canada. Marjorie's experience contributes to the perspective that has allowed her to develop two specialized techniques, the F.A.S.T. release method and the F.A.S.T. therapy. She offers seminars and lectures on both techniques throughout the U.S., Canada, and Europe. Marjorie has also authored two series of stretching manuals, Flexibility First, a fitness approach for life for the general population, and Flexibility First, the Professional Series for healthcare providers. The manuals present information in an easy, user-friendly format featuring the F.A.S.T. method release. Marjorie founded Brooke Seminars Education in 2007 with the intention of sharing her knowledge to enable a more satisfying bodywork experience to all those who would want to learn. Ms. Brooks has been a nationally certified New York State licensed massage therapist since 1997. In addition to her commitment to teaching, Marjorie has a private massage therapy practice, A Needed Break, that caters to both healthy and special needs children and adults. Welcome tonight, Marjorie.
Thank you, Ryan. It's great to be here.
Yep. So what is this whole thing with FAST release method? So what does FAST stand for?
FAST stands for Fascial Adhesion Scar Tissue Release Method. Yes, I know, quite the mouthful.
Yep.
I spoke fast.
Yeah. Can you say that 10 times fast?
Yes, I could.
Okay.
We didn't have that much time.
Yep.
No, basically, the technique is all about fascia. How important it is. The whole point is to bring the message out to therapists and to the general population about the effects of fascia. It's something that is now becoming quite the big buzzword, but I've been working with it, based my practice on it for several years now. And also, when you consider fascia, you have to consider what restrictions and problems with the fascia will cause throughout the body, which is leading us to the scar tissue and the adhesions. And the whole process of it is to make sure everyone is aware of the effects of that, and then on top of that, it brings in not just the physical effects, but a large part of the message is how to work and pay attention to the mental and emotional effects of what's going on in the body as well, either in regard directly to what the scar tissue, whether it was an accident or an injury or a trauma, or just what's sticking through the body, because everything's related. Everything that manifests physically has some sort of mental or emotional link.
Yeah, and a lot of people don't realize that, especially therapists in the beginning and stuff. They don't realize that there's so much emotional with everything too.
Well, that's one of the big things that I try to talk about in my class, because most, we hear in school about, clients can have an emotional release on the table, but the point is they warn us about that, but how much time do they spend prepping us to handle that?
Not a lot, yeah.
Not a lot.
Yeah.
Much less paying attention to it before you even start. I mean, if you're dealing, with an active technique, as in the stretching, and you have an athlete on your table who's injured and he's frustrated because he's not out on the field, or she's worried she's going to be cut from the team, all of that affects physically throughout the body what's going on a day-to-day basis, and especially during your treatment.
Yep. And then how long have you been practicing this method then?
I started developing the scar work when I was in school back in 1996. My very first client was in clinic. Was loaded with scars. His complaint, he'd been going to the clinic for 10 years, and his complaint was always lower back pain. And I walked in, and the guy was covered with scars on his front, on his abdomen, and on his rib cage. And I immediately said, well, this has got to have something to do with it. And from then on in, I've just been pretty much obsessed with working with scars. So you have a real passion for scars, would you say then? It really sticks with you.
Yep. Literally. Yeah.
I do, because I really think it's also another subject in schools that's not taught. It's not paid attention to. Basically, if they even speak about scars, 90% of the time, all they mention to you is cross-friction fiber. Cross-friction fiber. That doesn't cross-friction. Sorry about that. Oops. And cross-friction is very limited, and also they're only teaching you to treat the scar on the surface that you see. They're not teaching you to treat three-dimensionally throughout the whole body and paying attention to how it's affecting, and that the scar tissue could be spreading throughout the body. The adhesions could be causing restrictions in your abdomen that's causing problems all the way, up to your neck and your shoulder. None of that is paid attention to, and that's pretty much been one of my obsessions, to get out there for people to just, take a step back and see the forest for the trees.
Yeah, because there's not a lot of education out there, is there, with scar tissue? Is there, just specialized like this, or?
No, actually, this is really one of the things that, how I ended up getting into teaching it, is that like I said, I've always been doing it. And when I was traveling around the country teaching the stretching, as I said, I'm obsessed with scars. So if I saw a scar, I'm like, come here, let me work on it.
Have you done that in public too?
Yeah, I do that everywhere, trust me. I started ending up with a crowd around the table, watching me, and I started explaining to them what I was doing, and everyone was seeing the effects, and everybody's like, wow, and I kept getting requests over and over again during my stretching classes, are you going to show your scar work? Are you going to show your scar work? And from there, I ended up, I put a blast out there, who's interested in learning it, and my mailbox got inundated. So I put the class together, and now it's all she wrote.
So how long have you been teaching this class as it is then?
I think we're going on almost 4 years now.
Okay.
And it's really surprisingly taken off. It's taken me all over the place, and everybody seems to be very, very interested in it, because there is a lack of education out there on it. Now that everyone's starting to pay attention to fascia, there's an even greater need and urgency to learn about scars and adhesions and their effects on the body.
I like it that you call it fascia. Some people call it fascia.
Tomato.
Yeah.
No.
Yeah, because I like the term fascia better. It's like, who's your fascia, Yeah. Yep.
Thanks there.
Yeah. So, did you have other names for it before you developed this name then?
I used to just call it scar tissue release, but it was very general. But the thing is, when I first put the class together, I said, well, the technique itself is not brain surgery. I mean, the effects of it will blow your brains out. That was nice. Your mind. There you go. But when I first put the class together, I figured, maybe 3-hour class. But as I researched and was putting everything together that I thought everyone should know, I ended up with over a 50-page handout.
Oh.
The first time I taught the class, which was supposed to be 3 hours, we were there for 6.
Okay.
So the class has developed into like a 12-hour class, and we talk so much about fascia and adhesions that I kind of changed the name to fit what it was about. To try and get, and also the F.A.S.T is actually accurate because the results are immediate.
Okay, so it does make sense then. So,
I try every now and then.
Okay.
But I try.
Yeah. And does it incorporate myofascial release techniques then too with it, or?
Yes, it does. It's basically along the lines of myofascial technique, because we're listening to the body and we're letting the body take us and show us where everything is. It's just more of the application is more of instead of allowing the body to completely guide you, it's guiding you, but you're also using pressure and tension release to break up the scar tissue. And
then with scar tissue, over time and stuff, doesn't it wear down in a way too, that it's more prone to breaking again or having problems, or?
You mean over time of being worked, or just if you leave it alone and let it go?
You leave it alone and let it go, and then?
No, what I find is that for a majority of the population, is that it continues to spread. And it continues to cause more problems and more restrictions. Because if you think of the fascia in your body, everybody describes it as a cobweb or a saran wrap wrapped every which way. If you think of more along the lines of a rubber band ball, where the lines go every which way. Now, if the fascia continues to stick and spread, it can go any which way. If you have a C-section scar, it could spread straight back to your sacrum or to your vertebrae. It could go down into your psoas and down your legs, or maybe up and attached to your diaphragm. The longer you leave it and let it spread and cause restrictions, the worse it's going to get.
And with the does it usually follow the muscle grain, or can it go across the muscles?
It can go any which way. You can think of the scar tissue more as a dam that it dams things up. It doesn't run with the muscle fibers. It goes whichever way it feels, because if you remember, the fascia runs in every which direction, like the rubber band ball, and it can take any track, three-dimensionally, forward, backwards, inside, twisting around, spiraling around. There's no rhyme or reason for it.
And do you use some methods of the like anatomy trains too then?
Yes, of course. Your Tom stuff is fantastic. You know, if you look at how the body is pulling, it's and, you know, again, also following also with the Stecco family's research and what they've shown. It's all one piece. It's all connected. Whether it's Tom's work, the Stecco's work, it's all saying the same thing. It's saying that we're one giant piece, all the way down from our cells, all the way out to, you know, top of our heads, and everything's connected. Everything's you know, and you have to pay attention to that and follow what you feel with the body, where the restrictions are going.
And is there any way to tell how severe the scar tissue is at all?
Yes, I do believe that you can see if you start palpating the body and trying to see how the fascia is supposed to move, you're going to feel it. If you're paying attention to the client's going to react, the body's going to react, and they're going to be like, oh. And for example, I have a client who came in, she had suffered a mini stroke, she's in her 40s, and, you know, she came because she was restricted and had all problems from the stroke. And when she was filling out her history, and I was asking for any past medical surgery, medical history with surgeries, and she goes, oh, well, I had a C-section, but that doesn't mean anything. And it turned out that most of her restrictions were from the C-section scar tissue than from the mini stroke.
Oh. And were you able to help her then?
Oh, yeah, we're still working. We're doing the rehabilitative stuff now. We've got the scar tissue all broken down, and now we're working with rehabilitating from the damage done by the stroke. And
do you teach self-help with it too then?
With the scar work, I try. It's easier to show a family member how to work, because you only, depending on the angle of where the scar is, there's only so much you can apply to yourself. It's not like the stretching. It's you know, I will show, like, if it's in an area that you can easily work. Otherwise, if it's an area that's harder, I can show a spouse or a parent how to work, how to help each other out.
And what are the, I mean, is there anybody that's against working on scars? Have you heard of? For everybody who says yay, there's always somebody somewhere that says yay. You know, I'm not going to say there's nobody that says don't work on scars. No, because just like in the past where they used to say don't work with cancer patients. I mean, if you remember, I've been a therapist, you know, since 1997. Back on my exams, it was contraindicated to work with cancer patients. Now, thanks to great oncology programs and things that started with like Sloan Kettering and all of their, they've now brought awareness that you should be working with cancer patients. And now they actually say on the exams for should you treat cancer, the answer is proceed with caution. Oh, and by the way, anytime you put your hands on somebody, it's proceed with caution. You know, so much for that answer. Yeah.
But it's so now they agree with it. They used to say, and a lot of people say, never work on keloid scars. That you're going to make things worse working on a keloid scar. I work with keloid scars all the time. You know, it's again, tomato, tomato. If you believe in it and you know it's going to work and you're seeing results, then go for it. If you see something negative happening or the body's not reacting the right way or correctly, then you back off and you go for a doctor's opinion.
Yeah, for my wife's mom, she actually has a huge keloid on her chest and stuff, and then the only thing that she notices helps it some is rosehip seed oil. Mm-hmm. Yep. Is there any so techniques you can actually work on keloids and where it all depends and stuff, or?
Yeah, and there's other things like with the rosehip. There's emu oil. There's lavender. There's all kinds of other natural and holistic ointments and creams and things that you can use to help reduce scar tissue, and not just on the surface. That's one of the things that I want to really emphasize, to not just think about the scar that you can see, because the scar that you can see is just the very tip of the iceberg.
Yeah, because even with my 9-year-old daughter, she just had, a few years ago, she had a bike accident, and it wasn't major or anything, but it was right in her elbow area, and then she has keloids from that. And
she's only 9.
Yep.
So, if you don't start working on it now, it's going to affect her for the rest of her life. I've got kids coming in all the time from surgeries or major accidents, and it's just left. I have clients that are in their 50s that have scars from when they were first born, you know, from incidents when they were born, and it's affected them throughout their whole life. And then we can still make a difference and change everything now, 50 years later.
Yep. Yeah, because the doctors we talked to and stuff, they said they wouldn't do anything about it unless it's actually cosmetic, like on the face and stuff. But otherwise, they just want to leave them alone. Basically, that's what they told us, and it's like frustrating.
Well, if I had every client that comes into me says, as far as their scars and stuff like that, if the doctor had only told me to do this. I have one of my main clients that I like to use as an example in my classes is one of my kids that I work with. He started when he was 10. He had a club foot, and back then the treatment for a club foot is a series of 7 surgeries. When he came to me, he had just had his 3rd surgery, and the parents brought him because his good leg was hurting him because he's an athlete, he plays soccer and lacrosse. And after I worked on the good leg, I turned around and said, "Okay, well, do you want me to fix what's going on the other foot?" And they're like, "Oh, you can't fix that." What the issue is the child walked in with the foot completely inverted, and a club foot doesn't do that. It deforms the foot kind of into like a C shape. The inversion was being caused by all the scar tissue wrapped around the child's ankle all the way into the arch of the child's foot. You know, I worked on the scar for about 15-20 minutes, and the foot came down about 50% out of the inversion, and they were shocked. And they said if the doctor had just told them, to do this, they would have done it every day. I mean, you go through all the and here's where the emotional part comes in, because you have the parents going through first, they're starting ecstatic, the foot's better, then you see the rage come through at what the doctors, that this child was going through all of this, and then, the complete exhaustion over everything. And then you have to add into the fact that he was 10 at that point, walking inverted, so he wasn't bending his knee, he was hiking through his hips, so he was being set up for all of these other issues that he would have had the rest of his life and caused other problems. And I'm happy to say he's 16 now, and he's being scouted for football and lacrosse at colleges.
Oh, awesome. And do you know if anything with scar tissue and massage, if there's any kind of research out there?
They're doing it now. It's slow, but it's coming. With everything going on with the international fascial conferences, in fact, the one in March, which I'm very excited about, the theme of that one, they're having a whole day just on adhesions.
Whoa. I think you're going to be there, right?
I've already got my hotel reserved. I've already told Rick Warner, I'm coming.
Okay.
So I'm very excited about this year's seminar, next year's seminar.
And how often do they hold that seminar, do you know?
The Congress is once a year.
Okay.
Last year it was in Amsterdam. Or is it once every 2 years? I believe it's once a year. This time it's in 2012. It's going to be in Vancouver.
Okay. Hey, did you go to the other one at all?
No, unfortunately, I really wanted to do the Amsterdam one, but I was actually booked for the 2 weeks before in England and Scotland and Ireland, and at that point I had been gone for so long I needed to get home.
So you teach abroad then a lot?
I do about 2 or 3 times a year. I spend a lot of time over in the UK. I've also will teach up in Canada. I've been down in Mexico. Last year we took a little trip down there to teach. I love it.
And what is difference about their perception of scar tissue work with massage and ours, would you say? Is there any difference, would you say?
I wouldn't say there was a difference. I think they're starved for knowledge. They don't really work they're any more than we have. People have not paid attention to it, and they're just starting to pay attention to it now. The difference over in Europe versus here is the general thirst for knowledge. The way they look at continuing ed, or for them, CPDs, career professional development, is different than the way we look at continuing ed here. While they need the credits, they're more about the education and the knowledge and bringing everything together. And also, they don't care about who's teaching. I work with doctors and osteopaths and PTs over in Europe. They never question the fact that it's a massage therapist teaching the class, and it's very refreshing.
They don't?
No. I taught at the British School of Osteopathy in London last year. My whole class was DOs, MDs, and PTs.
Wow. Were you a little nervous at all, or?
No, not really.
Okay.
as far as I'm concerned, I'm coming in to teach a topic that I know a lot about and to share my knowledge. I never have this feeling that I'm a god up in the front of the room and everybody has to know, I have to know more than everybody else in the room, because that's never going to happen. There's always going to be people who have different points of views and different knowledge. I look at my classes as a chance for a whole bunch of really smart people to get together and share information and learn from each other. So going from that attitude, I'm just sharing everything I have and learning at the same time.
Oh, that's awesome. And it helps to be from New York too then, right?
New York. They have a little problem with my accent over there.
Oh, they do?
Just a slight bit, and I have to slow down just a little bit. For some reason, they think I speak very fast. Okay. Slow. We make it work.
Yeah. And when's the next time you guys, when you're going overseas then, or?
I'll be in London in April and possibly Scotland again. That one we're still working out, and then I'll be in Southern England in July. I'll be over in Southern England.
Okay. And then are you gonna be at any conferences or workshops or anything else in the near future, or conventions?
In the U.S.?
Yeah.
I'm doing two of the right now I'm booked for two AMTA conferences, one with Iowa and then one with Kentucky. But I'm pretty much booked back and forth across the whole state. I was just looking at putting my 2012 schedule together, and I'm everywhere from Hawaii to BC to Canada, and then back down to Pennsylvania and Georgia. I'm all over the place.
Okay. Okay. And then with but no other conventions or conferences then, or so far for now?
No, not at the moment. Other than attending the one in Vancouver, I've got a lot of classes with either that are being hosted by massage therapy schools or by PT offices, and kind of walking around that way. And we're starting to set up more of a base out of New York. They changed the rules here now, and continuing education is required. So we're looking to set up a group of classes here in New York.
And didn't they make it kind of harder or something, or more expensive?
It's not that they made it more expensive here. They're requiring 12 CEUs per year for 3 years. They are requiring more money from the providers. Okay. To teach, but not anymore from the students. That's electively again up to the providers and the schools of what they're going to charge.
Yeah. But the presenters have to have their costs somehow, though. So.
Yeah, they're not accepting the National Council Board. They want you to be a New York approved provider, and a lot of the states are starting to follow suit with that, making it a little bit more difficult for those of us who are trying to travel and spread the knowledge across the country.
Why can't they just make it simple?
It's not meant to be simple. Well, it's supposed to be simple, but we don't. As a race, we tend not to make it that way.
Yeah. And do you ever use any kind of lubrication at all for your work with scar tissues?
Not during the scar tissue work. Afterwards, I will use emu oil because it's anti-inflammatory, antibacterial, antiviral, and very healing for the scars. But during the scar work, no, because you need traction on your hands. Any type of lubrication, oil or cream, you're not going to be able to maintain the traction.
And there's different depths throughout the body then, would you say?
Yeah, it's the same thing. You can start. The way I work is we start layer by layer by layer. We never just jump in and go for broke. I don't do that with anything. No one should be doing that with regular massage, from Swedish to any other type of technique. You need to work your way in and work with the body, not against it. So I'll start superficially and just work my way down layer by layer by layer, separating the scar tissue and the adhesions, and letting the body take me where it will to show me what's going on.
And then, how did you get involved with active isolated stretching then?
I took one of Aaron's classes back in 2004 and was blown away by the work. I just thought it's just amazing. Aaron's contribution to the health professional fitness field is amazing with this work. And I came back a year later after studying my brains out and working with it with my clients, and took another class with him, and next thing I know, I ended up assisting with him and just loving the work.
And myself, I think it was around 2004. That's when I took that first class on active isolated stretching too and stuff. And I love it just because I don't like doing things really slow. I need to, I need to be faster at everything. So, yeah. And then with that too, it's just amazed me with when somebody sprains their ankle. I mean, that's one recommendation is actually use some active isolated stretching. And then for years, I mean, you were told never to touch that area, to stay away from it and stuff. So.
Well, if you look at how the body works, this is part of the problem with all the standard beliefs out there. If you look at how the body works, what we do tends to be the opposite. Like if you go with rice, I know Eric Dalton just put out his thing that he prefers meat versus rice, which is great. Mobilization, elevation. Rice is rest, don't move. Everybody's like, don't stay off the foot. But circulation throughout the body is caused through muscle contraction and movement. The whole point of what they were saying with rest and elevate the foot is to avoid inflammation. But you're not moving the foot, therefore you're not doing muscle contraction, therefore there's no circulation, therefore you're going to inflame. So most of the therapies out there, most of the standard ways that we treat, if you actually take a step back and look at how the body works physiologically and go with that, it's going to change the way you look at it. Even with the stretching, with the 2-second rule that you don't hold a stretch for more than 2 seconds because you don't want to trigger the stretch reflex. That flies in the face of, say, PNF, where they want you to hold the stretch until the stretch reflex triggers and then fatigues, and then you stretch. You know, that's basically the standard of way everyone looks to stretch. But from my point of view and that of the other stretching AIS stretching practitioners is that you don't want it to fire. Once you, obviously you're going to have, if you fire it and the muscle is, you're fighting against yourself, the muscle is contracting, you're trying to force it into a stretch, you're causing micro damage, circulation is not getting into the area, there's no oxygen, there's no nutrition, and then eventually the muscle will fatigue from that and give out. Well, yes, you'll have an increased range of motion, you just fatigued the muscle. It gave up, it's not going to fight you, you'll have more range of motion. Instead of going through all of that, and not training the muscle and hurting the body is why people are sore afterwards. In my opinion, it's better to not trigger the stretch reflex, to move the muscle, let them move the body to a certain point that it thinks it can go, give it a little assist past that, let the body relax for a second, and then let it recover and come back up into that position. It's going to go a little bit further each time, and you're retraining the body. Yes, you can work in this range of motion. You have more range of motion than you have. You're going to work with, not against.
Yep. And then what is the difference between fast flexibility and strength training therapy and active isolated stretching, would you say?
Okay, it's more my approach of how I apply the work. It's based 3 major principles of my FAST therapy. The first is the body-mind connection, what we touched on before, that the mental and the emotional have a major effect on the physical. If you have a client who's injured, like I said before, are they afraid of movement? Are they going to tense up and freeze against you because they're afraid of the pain? Are they angry because of how their life is being altered because of this? Are they depressed? What's going on? If you don't pay attention to that first, you've lost 80% of the battle. You need to address that first. With that in mind too, the next part is communication with my cueing techniques, which is verbal and non-verbal cueing, which is basically getting the patient back in touch with their body, getting them to move the proper way, getting the brain out of the way, getting the emotions out of the way, redirecting the brain someplace else so that you can get them to actively move. And then the last part is body mechanics, and I'll say it again, body mechanics, body mechanics, body mechanics, not just for the practitioner. This is key. It's as important to pay attention to the client's body mechanics as it is to the practitioners. Because everyone's like, if you just tell the client to lift if I tell everybody just, lift your leg, or you have to be specific to that client. What are they understanding? What is their appropriate reception to their body? Because if you realize as a race, we're not born with proprioception. It's something that we've learned as we move and as we've grown. And anything learned can be learned incorrectly or skewed. So we need to understand that each person may not be using their body appropriately, but they think they are. So you have to retrain how to use the body for both the client and the practitioner. So bringing those three things together, the body-mind connection, the cueing, and the body mechanics, it's just a different way of applying the work, a little more patient-oriented, emotion-oriented, and taking it a step further.
And I wish in massage school we'd have more time to go over these kind of things, but it seems like we just, a little bit of this, a little bit of that, a little bit of this kind of things, just everything thrown in.
Well, I'll be honest with you, I wish they teach emotional intelligence starting in grade school.
Yep, yeah.
Massage school, it would be nice to teach our kids how to relate to each other as well. But yes, it's really not paid attention to. If I have, for example, if I have a client walking in the door who's coming in for stretching, but they've had a really bad day, the boss was a pain in the rear end, the wife is harping at them, and they're just all over the place, I'm not going to do stretching with them if in a few minutes I can't bring them back to center, because it's an active technique. It's not what they need at the moment. They need a massage. They need to take a little bit of time for themselves, recenter, get rid of the stress. That, to me, is more important at the moment than doing the stretching.
And then I know so many therapists that have had training in let's say AIS or different stretching modalities, and they want to incorporate it into the treatments, but the problem is, I don't know if they just don't feel confident enough or not, but they just don't incorporate it into the treatments then. What would you say?
It's a lot of times, I'm assuming you're referring to massage therapists.
Yeah.
Massage therapists are used to doing passive work, and their clients are used to passive. They're used to coming in, laying on the table, and having the therapist work on them. And that's why a lot of people are hesitant. They don't know how to speak to their clients, explain the work to the clients, get the clients to actually want to be active. And that just takes practice. That's just talking to them, explaining to them, giving them a free session, doing a little bit of the stretching before the massage. Before you get undressed, let me show you some of this, and then either they'll continue with it or then you go on with the massage. It's just learning how to speak with your clients and truly understanding the technique and the value of it so that you can explain it to them. A large problem that massage therapists have is a lot of times when they're in the class and they're learning about the technique, they're more about listening to the hands-on than they are about the full explanation or how to explain the work. Every continuing ed teacher that's doing a different technique should spend a time explaining how to talk to your clients and introduce this technique to them.
Yeah, I think you should actually teach a workshop on doing that. Yeah, because the thing is, so many therapists need that extra boost. They're learning the techniques, but yeah, a lot of people don't spend time with them how to talk a client into them. Well,
it's not even that. Well, as if you've seen the discussions on Facebook, most massage therapists really don't know how to explain the benefits of massage. There's been discussions about don't say it prevents lactic acid. Clears lactic acid because lactic acid is really a good thing. And there's been a huge back and forth of trying to truly understand what it is that these techniques do, even the basic ones that they've learned, from Swedish to acupressure to shiatsu, any of those. It's truly understanding communication and how to speak, and understand that when you speak what you're saying and the way you're saying it to this one person, they might not understand it. You need the ability to communicate it several ways, to be able to repeat the same information on different levels and in different ways so that everyone that you're speaking to can understand you. It's very basic. It's the way I teach my classes.
Yeah, and then the F.A.S.T, flexibility and strength training therapy, and do you incorporate that a lot into your treatment, or do you incorporate some regular massage too, or active isolated stretching, or?
I'm a jack of all trades.
Okay.
I know what the client needs. I still do basic massage. I will never stop doing massage because I believe in it and I value it. And I have my scar work, and yes, I have the stretching as well. And there's a lot of times that they're combined, but it's how I can, if I'm doing scar work, I will always do stretching. It's the last actual step in the scar work, because once you've worked on scars or adhesions or on the fascia and you've released the tension, once you've changed the amount of tension or the way the tension is displayed throughout the body, you need to reestablish how the body's supposed to work. You can't leave it up to the brain to decide, okay, well, all this tension's loose now, I'm going to use the body this way, because the big compensatory machine is going to kick in, and they're not going to be functioning properly. With the stretching and strengthening that the F.A.S.T therapy provides, we re-educate the body how it's supposed to function, before we let that little 5-year-old brain say, I want to do it this way. So those two work together, and massage goes with everything. I do if they've done scar work or stretching straight on, just stretching and strengthening with me, then I'll say you can do massage afterwards. I feel if they're going to work hard, since the stretching and strengthening is active, then let them reap the benefits and the reward of a passive of just being there and getting a really good massage.
Yep. And then a question that, I mean, basically you put 10 therapists in a room asking this question, you're going to get 100 different answers. But do you feel it's important to know multiple modalities or specializing in one?
I think it's extraordinarily important to either know or at least have an understanding of multiple modalities. You might find that one technique that you love. There are stretching people who just do the stretching. There are people who just do structural integrity. There are people who just do mild fascia release because those techniques speak to them. It's what they love to do, and that's great. And they will probably just attract, that's all they're going to do, then they may just be attracting clients where that technique speaks to them. But from my point of view, no one technique is the end-all, be-all. And you need to have a toolbox loaded with tools of multiple different techniques and a thorough understanding of them to get what the client may need. I have a client who came in with lower back pain, and I got her 80% of the way out of lower back pain using the stretching and the strengthening, and I couldn't get that last little bit. And I said, you know what, let me try something. And I explained to her what mild fascia release was, and I did some mild fascia release and unwinding, and she flew open. I mean, just she loved it. It spoke to her. It was her. She loves this technique. It's the only technique she wants when she comes in now. But she still accredits the fact that it was the stretching and strengthening that took her most of the way out of the pain. But I found a technique that speaks to her. Some clients might need multiple techniques or different techniques at different times. So I'm a firm believer on having a big toolbox. Now, my favorite hammer and saw is the scar work and the stretching. But that doesn't mean I don't have a whole arsenal of other tools that I can pull in. And at the same time, even if you decide just to do one technique, you need to learn the other techniques, because you need to have an understanding when someone comes to you and says, oh, I'm doing structural integrity. And not just understand, what this person said it was or that person. You need to experience it, and you need to learn what it's about. And you might decide, I don't like this. It's not for me. Mild fascia unwinding? What the heck is that? Just little freaky people just unwinding and making noises and, floating and rolling around the room, It might not speak to you, but you will have an understanding of it. So when your clients ask you about it, you really will know what it is. Knowledge is power. You don't have to use every technique, but you should know what those techniques are and have a proper understanding. In the beginning, when I was a massage therapist, I had completely misunderstood what Rolfing or structural integrity was. It was explained to me as ripping the meat from the bone and a nasty technique. And I honestly believed that until I experienced it from a very wonderful therapist here on Long Island, who I went to him and said, what are you doing? Show it. Do it to me so I can understand it. And I think it's fantastic. I think it's an absolutely amazing technique. I was totally incorrect in what I thought it was because I didn't go to experience it. I just took someone else's word for it.
Yeah, and what I've heard about Rolfing too, it's gotten a little bit more gentler over the years too and stuff. So.
Well, as with anything, whether it's a form of exercise or a technique, you should never take anybody's word for it. You should experience it 3 times, whether it's with the same person 3 times or with a different practitioner or exercise. Because you really can't decide the first time whether, if you don't like something, it could be many factors why you don't like it. It could be the practitioner. It could be the way they're doing the technique. It could have been the setting. So try it at least 3 times with different people at different times in different settings. And then if you decide, no, it's really not for me, that's great. But don't just rule something out. I tell my clients the same thing. Don't just decide you don't like something because you had one bad experience or someone else had a bad experience. If every doctor experienced their own test that they prescribed 3 times, I think there'd be a lot less prescriptions for wearing enemas.
And I had a question. In your professional credentials, it says Certified Thermal Paraffin Wax Therapy. What is that?
Oh, I had gotten a paraffin tank when I first started training. Paraffin wax, for those who don't know, is just a nice therapeutic form of wax. It's not the hair removal wax. Don't even go there. It's a therapeutic wax that you can use for alleviating aches in the joints, and also it helps. It's great for black and blues as well, for hematomas. And I bought it for myself, for my own hands and stuff like that. And I started using it with my clients, and my clients were loving it with the rheumatoid and all of that. And I said, well, I'm not comfortable charging someone for something I'm not trained in. So the International Dermatological Institute here in New York was offering a certification class in it. So I went and took it. It's basically just gave me the definitions, the precautions, how to use it. It gave me some of the beauty, the spa techniques to do wraps and like that, and also how to use it therapeutically.
Well, because I've never heard of the certification, so that's cool that there's more depth. Because the thing is that average person just dip your hands in there or dip your feet in there, and that's about it, kind of thing.
Well, there's all tricks you learn. Like, for example, when I do the paraffin, I slather whatever body parts, the elbows, the knees, the hands, the feet, in a very thick collagen lotion. And then I let them dip. Because besides the fact that, then you put the plastic on and you put the mitts on, and that's as the wax solidifies, instead of the heat escaping out, it's forced to go in to the joints, and it relieves the aches and pains of rheumatoid arthritis and the ligaments in the joints. But it also intensifies the heat. From the intense heat, the pores in the skin open up. So then the nice collagen lotion just right into the skin, and it makes your hands as smooth as a baby's bottom. And for my carpenters and my electricians and my plumbers, with all those, hard, rugged hands, it's awesome.
Yeah, and then I remember way back in the day in a garage sale, I bought these electric mitts, so they vibrated and heated up and stuff. Do they recommend those kind of things too? Or?
No, those I've never heard of.
It's one of those commercial things, like a Target and stuff.
It's one of those toys out there.
Yeah.
I happen to have a tendency to go away from anything electric, and that's going to vibrate the current. I'm not a huge fan of running electric currents around my clients for any reason, even like the heated blankets on the tables. Just for me personally, because of the electric current, electricity, I don't like to do that, and I don't think anyone should be laying on something like that for a length of time.
Okay, and then you're also FIT certified personal trainer too. What does FIT stand for?
It's just a local trainer organization here in New York, as Fitness Institute. Here in Long Island, where I got my training. I became a personal trainer while I was in massage therapy school, so I took it locally.
And do you think that actually helps you too with the active isolated stretching and other modalities that you're using?
Oh, definitely, because I'm doing the strength training as well. It also helps out being a trainer because some states, i.e. New York for sure, their scope of practice does not allow stretching sessions on their own. My scope of practice as a massage therapist says I can do, in New York, says I can do stretching if it enhances the massage, but I'm not allowed to do a straight out stretching session. So as a personal trainer, plus the fact that I'm doing strength training with it as well, I am. And my insurance coverage as a personal trainer covers me for that.
Okay. Yeah, because here in Minnesota, all people need to be a personal trainer is just a weekend seminar, and they get a certificate and stuff. And
well, you know, we talked about you didn't know I had a certification in the paraffin wax. You didn't know that existed.
Yep.
The thing about certifications, to be quite honest with you, because there's no regulation. There's certifications for everything. The problem with that is that the general population hears the word certify or master, like Reiki, or or advanced. To them, those words mean qualified. And what you feel, some people, a weekend course in anything, in my opinion, you're not qualified or certified to apply. So it's a bit of a bugaboo with me. With that type of thing. I think if you're going to learn something and you're going to something that involves you applying it to another human being, it takes more than a weekend to do that.
Yep. And just the other day I posted something like that on my Facebook fan page too and stuff, and some people went one way, some people went the other way with that and stuff about whether they should be certified in this certain modalities and stuff, and I mean it just opened up a whole can of worms. And what?
That steel and fuel conversation?
Yep.
Here's my thing about that. We all learn new things when we go get a massage from someone else. That's the whole point, to see something, and then you can ask that person, get home and practice it, and maybe apply it to your clients. But in no way, shape, or form, if you're doing something that's a different modality that you haven't been trained in. If you're doing, like they said, pregnancy massage or any type of major modality that's affecting the body, you need training in that. You can't just take a class, get it done to you, and then turn around and be able to do it to someone else because you don't have the history behind it of why this technique is applied this way and what the precautions are. I remember doing a class, doing a session with another therapist, and he was learning the stretching, and every stretch I did on him, he was like, oh, I have a client to do this with. I can't wait to go do this on my client, do that on your client. Like, I studied for a year and a half before I ever even thought about charging a client to do stretching because I needed to know this technique. Now, that's me. I really studied it. But at the very least, you need to take a class with someone who's qualified and learn what the technique is and learn how to apply it and all the precautions that go with it.
Yeah, because that could be a whole discussion and a whole night kind of thing, too. And then you use the term human work and not body work. Why do you use that then?
Well, it's two separate things. There's the body work. We're all body workers. We all do the physical hands-on. But in my opinion, it shouldn't stop there. For example, I have a recovering stroke patient. He's 40 years old. And I was talking, as we're working, and we were doing the stretching and the strengthening, and I said to him, I go, what do you do all day long? And his wife yelled out, he sits around and watches Dr. Phil. He's a civil engineer. And I'm like, no. I said, do you have a computer? Do you use your computer? And he said, yes. So I needed some research done. So I made a deal with him. I said, how about you do this computer research for me? You keep track of the hours, and you get up to, you do 8 hours worth or whatever, and then I will give you a session in exchange for it. And this accomplished multiple things. One, it brought his mind back to activity, gave him something to do. 2, got the research done that I needed to get done and didn't have time to do. And 3, gave him the ability to participate in his own recovery, in the financial end of it, which has currently been on, a labor on his wife, and also a problem with him emotionally because all the burden that he feels he's become to his wife. That's taking it a step further. Also, that's the human work. That's also turning around and saying to his wife, so what did you do for yourself lately? Besides run around with the kids and take him to the doctors and go to work. What are you doing for yourself? Because her state of emotion and mental health affects him. It's never your client who's injured or sick. It's never just about them. If they're married or a child or a parent, it affects everybody in the family. And how it affects the family affects back on them. And that, to me, is human work, paying attention and taking that extra step out, away from the body work. Yep.
And then your Flexibility First manuals, can people purchase those through you, or do they have to go through workshops? Or?
Well, both. Right now, they're available as e-books and downloadable PDFs that you can print out. You can go to the flexibilityfirst.com, or you can go to brookseminars.com, and the links are there. We're hoping to get them out in hard copy. I'm thinking of revising a few things. They've been out for a couple of months, and I've been looking at the way things are and being the perfectionist that I am. Changing things before I bring them out in hard copies. But you can definitely, at the very least, you can stop by and sign up for the free subscriptions, which is both the flexibility.com, and then the professional, which is the pro.flexibility.com. You can sign up for free 12 weeks of free subscriptions, which sends you lessons and individual stretches for things like carpal tunnel, IT band syndrome, general tight hamstrings, and you get a taste of what's in the books.
And do you have any other books in the works then?
Could be. A whole bunch of things. I'd like to really put together a book about the scar work and paying attention to fascia. I also am working on getting DVDs out to go as companions to the flexibility guides.
Okay, so will the DVDs be coming out soon then, would you say? Or
probably closer to 2013 with everything that's going on. I'm currently revamping. I'm actually putting together my own certification that's going to combine everything, the scar work, the stretching, the strength training, everything into one as a complete package. And just there's a whole lot of different things going on. I never was working on one thing, and again, between the travel, the seminars, and the private practice. There's that guy, the husband.
Yeah.
On occasion, and the puppies, I gotta, every now and then spend some time with them.
Do you think your practice has suffered a lot just because you're getting more well known, and then you're doing all these workshops, seminars all over, and?
It's not so much I want to say suffered. the every now and theners and the on-demand clients, you know, see me now or I'm not coming. Gone by the wayside, and my coupon people. But my regular clients and my clients who have major issues, my disease, those with diseases and disorders or injuries, or the kids, I seem to be really getting a lot of kids, which I'm thrilled about, to come in and work with, from the athlete to those with problems such as, you know, scoliosis and other disorders. They're there. They all get very upset when I'm gone for a long amount of time, but they understand that I have this, I can't not teach. I realize that I'm really called or drawn to be out there to help others, you know, be able to better communicate and better have an understanding of what they're doing, so that they can help their clients and people that I could never possibly get around to seeing.
And then what did you do before you got into massage? What was your professions?
I was actually in broadcasting. I worked for ABC News, 2020, Primetime Live, Day One. I was a post-production manager for them.
Oh, I'm jealous.
It always seems like a lot of fun and everything, but I actually was there. I left during the OJ era.
Oh, you did?
Yeah, I was there for OJ, and that's when news stopped being news, and the whole broadcasting. I originally got into broadcasting to make documentaries and to make a difference with, you know, very important information. And I'll never forget the night that changed everything. We had a very important piece on a mother who had created a diet that helped her child come out of autism, to come out of his spectrum. He was on the lower end of the spectrum. And we had to keep cutting the piece down and cutting the piece down on the day of air to get more and more OJ. And finally, they ended up cutting the piece just so they could have more footage of OJ. And I'm like, I am in the wrong profession.
Yeah, because everybody remembers that white Bronco. Oh. Do you miss it? Do you miss it a little bit though, or?
Do I miss broadcasting?
Yeah.
Not the news end of it. I miss the original part of the production and all that. But you never know, with the DVDs, I might be getting a little taste of it again.
Yep.
What goes around comes around.
Yep. And then for your scar tissue class, how long is that usually?
It's developed into a 12-hour class. I do offer it as a one-day class, but I think, you know, for those who, especially when we combine it with the stretching, I might go in for a 3-day weekend and do the scar tissue into the stretching. But it can be in a 1 or a 2-day format, 12 CEUs max at the moment. It might be expanding after I go to the Fascia conference. You never know.
Yeah. So with that, can you kind of walk me through a little bit what your class entails and stuff? Is it mostly all hands-on or some lecture? Or?
Well, it's completely different between the scar work and the stretching. The scar work is more lecture, because it's really important that they understand about fascia and how scar tissue and adhesions are formed and how they affect the body, plus my whole point of view on the emotional and mental aspect of it. So it's about 75–80% lecture at the moment, and well, for the 1 day. If it's a 2-day, it's about 70% lecture and 30% hands-on, as opposed to the stretching and strengthening, which is about 20–25% lecture and 80–75% hands-on. Okay.
And then do you still teach with Erin Madison?
Mattis.
Yep.
I'm actually been very, very busy running around with my own classes. I've been very, very blessed. Once I had the scar tissue out there and combined it with by itself and with the stretching, I've just been crazy running around just doing my own thing.
Yeah, because I heard he's cutting down a lot on teaching and stuff, so he's still in his clinic some, but I mean, maybe once a month, if that, he's traveling and stuff. And
well, the man deserves a break. He's been doing it for 40 years.
Yep.
But down in Sarasota, so you can always just look up at his website. He's there. It always pays to go to the master and learn from the one who started it.
Yep. StretchingUSA.com. Yep. So, do you have any other classes in the works too that you're going to be developing, or?
I'd like to do a straight body mechanics class. I'm trying to figure out the best way to do that, because honestly, the way I teach body mechanics is as the students are applying the techniques, I'm literally walking around the room and wrapping myself around each individual student. So I don't want to just do like Tai Chi moves and explain things. I'm coming up with a whole varied ways of teaching the body mechanics. And there's a couple of things. People have asked me, like, throughout, how to communicate with your clients and how to bring in different modalities. There's a whole bunch of things out there. I'm kind of just going with it at the moment. I have so many different things in so many different directions. I'm trying to rein it all in and, you know, do one thing at a time now.
Yeah, and the problem is, I mean, most massage therapists honestly need like body mechanics or self-help stuff more than technique stuff. But of course, the technique classes fill up faster than the self-help things. And
well, this is the thing. Okay, as far as any technique class out there should be teaching, in my opinion, I'm not saying anybody's bad. I never poo-poo anybody, but a major part of any hands-on technique class should be body mechanics. If you're applying and putting your hands on it, you have to have proper body mechanics, or you're not getting the effect that you want, and you're also shortening the life of your career. So it should always be, body mechanics should always be first and foremost with every technique, not just this is what the technique that's going. It's like, it's the same thing if you take a yoga class. If you take a yoga class and the instructor stays at the head of the room and just, you know, do as I do, you know, do as what I'm saying, and you don't go around and physically show the students what it is that you're saying for them to do, because their proprioception or their idea of what you're doing might not be the same. So body mechanics is really key in any technique class, and everyone should be teaching that first and foremost.
yes, definitely. And if you had one wish for your workshop students, what would it be?
That each and every one of them gets at least one aha moment and one an aha moment constitutes of the light bulbs going off, you know, or the blinders, you know, just flying off, and they actually realize something and they get it, whether it's what, you know, my techniques or just something that applies. Because when I teach body mechanics and the lessons that I teach, while they get the techniques from me, the whole point of my classes is that what I'm doing the body mechanics and the lessons about how to communicate and talk and cue and work with your clients applies to every technique that they're doing. You know, yeah, they're going to learn the technique they came from, but that's the bigger message and the more important part. So I love it when they have the aha moments. And then the movement moments is when they realize that they had a misconception about something, or now they actually understand something, whether it's for them or not. They have more piece of knowledge that will now alter the way that they think or communicate about something.
Yeah, I've always heard of the aha moments, but I've never heard of the moments.
Well, it's one of those moments where an aha moment is a big altering moment. It's
yep.
Like, oh my gosh, like when the first time I heard Aaron Mattis say every way you've learned how to stretch is incorrect, and I'm like, really? And then when I actually started to listen to him speak, I was like, oh my gosh, he's right. This is how the body works. That was my big aha moment, and it was a huge one. And movement moment is when the student really listens to what's going on, and they're like, a misconception that they had is altered. You know, they still might understand that, well, yeah, I don't like this particular technique or this, but now I really truly understand what it is, and that's a good thing. It doesn't have to be a life-altering thing, but it can be an informational altering.
Yes, definitely. So, what's the best way for people to get a hold of you then?
I'm on Facebook. There's the Brooke Seminars Bodywork Education page. Come and like me.
Yep.
There's also the brookseminars.com, which lists all my classes as well. They can email me. They can call me. Because as I tell all my students, it doesn't matter where I am in the world. I will get back to you. I'll answer questions any way, any form, whether you've taken my classes or not. You want to have a conversation, just give me a call. I love to talk. Just ask my husband. Yeah,
I can definitely tell you like to talk. You're very good at it.
Really?
Yeah.
Hey, maybe I should do a career in that or something.
Yeah. Well, thank you very much tonight, Brooke. It's been an awesome blast and stuff with you, and never boring.
It's been a pleasure. I hope we get to do it again sometime.
Yes, definitely. Thanks, everybody, for tuning in.